Okay, so I've added a couple more divs here. You can see I have a green div, I called it main, and I have a brown div, and I called it footer. So I did that the same as the other divs. Now, one of the problems is, though, in my little diagram, I have this green box is up here next to this pink box, and the brown box floats on the bottom. So one of the ways to make this happen is to actually put some positioning in the boxes, right? So we've made the boxes, but we haven't actually positioned them. So what we're going to do is we're going to position them all relative, and then we're going to float them, and we're going to float them all left. And the way that float works is that it sort of makes it so it doesn't stack on top of each other. You can see this stacks on top of this, which stacks on top of this, which stacks on top of this. Instead, it says, well, if you have enough space, why don't you float right next to the other item? So we'll see. Let me do that to a couple pieces. Okay, so we're going to go back to my Dreamweaver. Okay, and so you can see the ones that we need to float are the filters and the main. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do position, relative, and you always float left, or at least most of the time you float left if you want something to float next to each other. If I floated one right and left, then it would cause a little bit of confusion. So I like to do float left if I can. Okay, so now when I refresh, after I did float left to both of those, you can see what's nice, right? The lovely pink one floats right next to the green one. The big problem is that my brown one is all over the place now, and that's because it doesn't have any idea what it's supposed to be doing. It's like, wait, I don't understand because everything's floating. So if I put some position relative in there, let's see what it does. So position colon relative, and I'm putting that in my footer, and then I'm going to do float left. Okay, so now I've done a little bit of positioning in mine, and you can see now that it's floating, it knows it needs to float. Then what happens is this one has enough space here, right? The green has enough space here, and then the brown can't float up here because there's no space, because remember it's 1024 and it can't fit into it, it's 1024. So the brown comes on down here. So that's a useful way to make everything sort of float after each other. So you can see my piece is almost perfect. One of the things you notice though, as soon as I make everything float, it takes away the sort of space in the container. So you can see now that everything is floating, my container doesn't believe that it has anything inside of it. So we need to fix that. So I can go back to my container now. And what I can write in there is I can write overflow colon auto, which means that it should respect what's inside of it and actually show us the color again. You can see there now all my gray is back, and so now all of my containers are doing what I want them to do. I have this this lovely blue, I have a red, I have a green, and I have a brown. And all of the containers are doing what they're supposed to do in terms of positioning. So you need to use that position relative and the position float throughout your site to sort of make pieces float where they need to go.